Great podcast with your host Hussein Talib. In this episode, I have with me Jeremy Shapiro talking about how to scale your business through a mastermind. He is a mentor, a coach to entrepreneurs. Serial entrepreneur Jeremy Shapiro has helped small business owners make the transition from solopreneur to business owner, an important distinction that many entrepreneurs can easily miss when working in their business instead of on their business. So, Jeremy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great. Love the show.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you are here with me in this episode. So, we are going to be talking about masterminds, the power of masterminds, how it can influence the business and drive the business forward. And it is very powerful, I would say, maybe tool, I guess, to drive businesses forward. But before we talk about that, because this is the Success Secret podcast, I want to know what is your definition of success?
So for me, I view entrepreneurship as this wonderful thing that can create what we call entrepreneurial freedom. So for me, success is defined as having that freedom. And I don't just mean like the financial freedom that many people think about when they talk business and entrepreneurship, but freedom of time, freedom of choice. That's what gives you optionality to choose who you work with, when you work with them, and how you work with them. And that's one of the powerful things that can come with creating the right kind of business.
Awesome. So now, going to masterminds, why do you think first of all that each business owner or entrepreneur online, for example, or offline, should have some kind of masterminds? And let's say, first of all, let's define what is a mastermind. Some people might know what it is, but others might not. So let's get start from there.
Yeah, when we talk about masterminds nowadays, the definition typically comes from Napoleon Hill. In 1938, he published Think and Grow Rich, and there's a chapter in there titled The Power of the Mastermind, the Driving Force. And this is really where he put together the idea of a mastermind being the coordination of knowledge and effort in the spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. Now, look, that writing's about 100 years old. Nowadays, we'd say more casually, when you have more than two minds together, you have this third additional mind that's created by everyone being together. This is in the form of peer advisory and folks who are really looking out for your best interests and who are able to bring their superpowers and their expertise to the table and truly help you out.
Very important, but now, do you think that each business should integrate that? Because a mastermind being basically, we are talking about a group of people that are similar in ideas, basically. You cannot just have anyone in there, I guess, right? It's people who are aligned with each other and whether growing a certain thing or certain business or their own self, personal development, whatever the case may be. So these people have to be aligned with each other. So
Yeah,
how do we put the first brick in the wall to go from there?
mastermind groups aren't for everyone. And to your point, you want that harmony. You want like-minded individuals. Generally, I've found the most successful mastermind members are growth focused, both personally and professionally, right? They want to grow. They're listening to podcasts, they're going to courses, they're investing in themselves, they're reading books. We're all voracious readers, right? Secondly, it's not just about what you're getting from a group. You also want to be able to contribute to the group. Sometimes people have this idea that they don't have anything to share or bring to the table, and everyone feels that way. If you don't feel that way, that's actually a problem. All successful entrepreneurs have some level of imposter syndrome, right? That's why they are where they are. They're trying to constantly prove themselves, both to themselves and to others, that they do have value, right? So a successful mastermind member is going to want to participate fully in a group, be vulnerable and open to feedback, and open to giving and sharing insights with others. We talk about the different kinds of knowledge. We have an idea of what we think we know. We generally have an idea of what we don't know. And these are like when we have big questions we want answers to, those are the things we know we don't know. But the real opportunities I see again and again come from the things we don't know that we don't know. And so when you get in a room with other folks who can see those opportunities and those blind spots and share that with you, the really big aha moments come up again and again and again during everyone else's hot seat. That's where we find out about things we didn't even know we should be looking at within our own business or within our own lives.
Yeah. So now, in general, having a masterminds, we talk about knowledge. Generally, knowledge is like Google is there.
Yeah.
So now what a mastermind can do, is it, where are we talking about brainstorming ideas, developing something that already might not uh, exist, or something that exists that is beneath our sight? Is this one of the benefits of having a mastermind?
So when you have a very specific question, like a how to, right? Google is wonderful for those kinds of things. You know what you're looking for and you can find the answer, right? But Google and other sort of search engines aren't going to help you to uncover what you don't know that you don't know. And so those opportunities and those ideas I see come up again and again. So as an example, most all of our members are serial entrepreneurs. They're not running one business or running the same business they've always had. New businesses come up, usually filling a gap in one of their own businesses or their marketplace, or they have multiple businesses running at the same time. This is far more common than many folks would imagine. So, for example, we have brick and mortar businesses, for example, a doctor's office, right, who realizes the opportunities that exist in selling online and having e-commerce products available as well. And so they're able to expand, taking ideas from other folks who are operating in the online space, and they're able to put those online, right? You have an attorney who operates a traditional practice, but finds out from direct mail marketers the strategies used for direct mail and is able to implement those strategies in their business. So a lot of the opportunities that come up are not because you're finding an answer to the question you have, but because you're seeing what others around you are doing in their own industry and you're able to emulate that in your own. We had another one of our members with a very traditional software business, selling software licenses for companies to use on site with their own servers. Well, within the group, the concept came up of offering this as a software as a service model and relaunching a new company to service an entirely new market in an entirely new way. And that second business launched in parallel and eclipsed the original business just by filling a new need in the marketplace. And there are dozens more stories like this, but those opportunities and ideas come from being surrounded by those who are doing and taking action in their own businesses.
Yeah, so having a mastermind is for taking business owners, entrepreneurs from a next step to the next level, taking them to the next level, right? In a faster way.
Yeah,
Because
we often find members will come to us and they're at some level of a plateau. Businesses often grow in S shapes. So you sort of have a slow ramp and then things pick up and shoot up really well and then start to level off and plateau. One of our goals as business owners is to, what we say, stack the S's. So as one S is plateauing, the next one's already kicking off. When we talk to new members, sometimes they're feeling one of those plateaus and they're not sure what's next or how to grow or how to get unstuck, right? And that's where those innovative ideas that come from within the group can be really helpful. As an entrepreneur, it's lonely at the top. Who do you share your successes and wins with and your failures and challenges, right? Where do you get that true insight? But from a peer advisory group of your peers who are around you. And more importantly, when you're looking at the feedback that comes in, when you've gotten to the top within your business, who is it who can really challenge you and ask you those hard questions or show you the blind spots that you're missing? A true mastermind group is going to have others who are open to challenging you with love and with respect and care in ways that your employees, your family, your friends, and nobody else is really going to do.
definitely, like as we mentioned, we're talking about like the people who might be around you are not on the same different, like you see that, I'm sure, like I know you know that the people you interact with, whether in a different type of interaction, work, going to the market, whatever it is, like you have a different aspect of things. Like I remember, like I am now 37 years old. I am recall like maybe 10 years ago or 7 years ago, like for example, my buddies wanted to go like play video games. But but to my thinking, yeah, video games are cool, but I don't want to do that anymore. I'm a level at like this is for the kids in my mind. Yeah, there is professional, gamers and these type of things, as you know, but this is not for everyone. So I didn't find it some kind of even entertaining anymore. I wanted to go to another place, to another level. So these kind of ideas sometimes don't align with a lot of people. So this also might create some kind of friction, because you do, in order to
Yes.
go to the next level, you have to find the type of people that you are have accountability with in whatever it is that you want to do, that actually can help you grow, because nobody can grow their business like solo. But this is what also taking from solopreneur to business owner, because there is a difference. No matter how much you can grow as a solopreneur, there is a different level to it from a business owner, right?
Yeah, you're spot on with that. And the social aspect you mentioned there about the video game friends and all is so common amongst entrepreneurs. You know, even now, all the time, socially, I hang out with wonderful friends and great people who have 9-to-5 jobs, which is great. We need all those kinds of folks, but the level of conversation you have about how is your day, how is your week, what's going on, is an entirely different world when you're running your own business and when you're working a job. So the kind of feedback you get socially from friends, family, vendors, employees, and so on is not exactly the kind of gentle challenging questions or feedback you need. And that's really where a true group of peers in a mastermind group setting can be so, so powerful and helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So, for example, now I actually been thinking about that. Like, for example, if someone asks you, like I am, if I would want to start a mastermind group right now, what should I do? Like, is there some kind of a steps framework to have this type of people, to ask the kind of right questions, to gather in a way, or is it like semi-annually, every month, these type of things?
Yeah, so in terms of how you'd structure a group if you were starting your own mastermind group, there's quite a number of things involved in that to do it well, right? So one, to your point, is you want to think about your meeting frequency. I view the frequency category as falling into one of three groups. On one end of the spectrum, you have what I call your destination mastermind groups. These are going to hop on a plane and fly somewhere 2, maybe 3 times a year, and you'll be gone like a week or so, spending a few days with 20 of your best friends, deep diving into business. And these are wonderful and fun. They also typically cost 5 to 6 figures a year just to be a member in the group, like a country club model. And you're taking that time away from family, your business, and everything else to connect. And when you think about that period of time, with 6 months between meetings, your entire business can change. You can have sold that business and launched a new business and be in an entirely different place over a course of 6 months. On the flip side of that, you have what I call like your accountability groups. These sometimes meet in a coffee shop, or maybe you hop on a Zoom call or a phone call. You might meet once a week. You're probably only connecting for 30 to at the most 90 minutes, and you can't really deep dive into your business and your life and what's going on. And you can have some accountability, but over the course of 1 week, you're not making any true business changing decisions. There's only so much you can get done in that period of time. So the sweet spot we found in the middle, how I run things at the Bay Area Mastermind, is a once a month cadence. So we get together once a month for a full day of working on the business as opposed to working in the business. With the month timeline between meetings, that really gives members a chance to implement and execute on their accountability items on the real work that matters, that's going to change the business and move it forward and really help it to scale, right? So to your point about meeting frequency, I find that sweet spot is about once a month for a full day. The second thing you want to be really mindful of when you're creating a mastermind group is what your vetting process is. Mastermind groups aren't for everyone, and you need to know who it is that you're looking for in your group. Is it businesses of a certain size, right? Is it businesses with certain challenges of the same type in the same industry? What is it that you want to be in common amongst the members? And conversely, what diversity do you want within the group in terms of styles of business, location, scale, and so on, right? The third piece you want to definitely consider is making sure there's some sort of financial commitment, right? The time commitment is one thing, but we know from experience, when you're paying for something, you're more likely to be engaged and involved and show up for it. Whereas if it's like those free coffee groups we're talking about, one of the challenges with like a weekly accountability group is people don't show up. Life gets in the way, and if there's a free group or a $97 a month sort of low-end group, you're probably going to do anything else but show up to that group, just priority-wise. When there's a reasonable size investment for members to get value from that, there's a higher likelihood they'll show up and they'll engage to ROI that and get a return for their business. So be mindful and considerate of what's involved in that, especially if you have a meeting venue and other expenses in terms of, providing catering and food and, parking, all those services to make an in-person group really valuable. or support the community between. So those are sort of the top 3 things I'd say to consider as you're looking at creating your own group. Of course, the flip side is you can join an existing group that has all that figured out. So you can just step into a well-oiled machine that's already running and is properly put together.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. Like you would have the atmosphere, you would have the experience, and this is one of the things that you talked about here. The experience of the members, let's say, of the group, that is important. You do want to have generally people that are maybe, let's say, know better than you or more than you, or at least
Yeah.
at level maybe. Do you think this is one of the important things?
If we're, to use an analogy, if we're the big fish in a small pond, we can't really grow any bigger, nor do we get the input and feedback we need. So when you put yourself in the position, on the other hand, where you're the tiny fish in a huge pond, that can also be challenging in terms of finding those you can learn from. So you do want to be around those who are like you and ideally a little bit beyond to help pull you in that direction. And so you're somewhere within the middle of, a range of businesses or individuals. The piece to be mindful of is we all have our own different superpowers and our own areas of expertise. So what I see again and again in our groups that I love is you'll have somebody who doesn't do a whole lot of, say, email marketing. And a different member is sharing their expertise in how every time they send email, money comes into the business. And so the person doing no email marketing gets to ask the questions and say, tell me more about how you're doing that. And then learn from someone who's doing this really successfully in their business. We see this with PPC. We see this with SEO, with management, with hiring, with finance. Everyone has expertise in different areas. So the area that you're weak in business, you can get the expert input and feedback. And in other areas of your business, you come to each meeting and our members are sharing what they've learned, what's working and what's not working. So it's almost like having a virtual laboratory of scientists out there working on other copies of your business and reporting back their findings. So instead of you taking a year to find an answer about 10 things that don't work to find the one that does, over the course of 1 month, you can learn 10 things that didn't work and 1 thing that does. And of course, when you're finding out everyone's successes, you get to learn from all of those and really shortcut your way to best practices.
Definitely. That's very important. Like eventually that's the point of it, like to learn from their experiences and to grow your business. Like you mentioned in the example, for example, some piece of the business might not be utilized at its, let's say, maximum, for example. So you would learn the other best practice that can help you with doing that. And eventually it is about people helping other people in business. It's not like people buy from buildings, I guess. So
Yeah,
so
you truly do get to leverage that. Additionally, you get a range of expertise and different approaches. So as an example, if someone's coming into the group and one of their challenges is, say, lead generation, and they're looking to grow the business with more leads, you might have 5 different experts in the room on that with very different perspectives on how to do that. All of them are successful and all of them work, and you now get that diverse range of input. And what I find interesting is when you have like these inverse challenges. I remember we had a member who joined us to test drive with us for the day, try out the group for a day, which we invite folks to do. And his challenge was not on the lead generation side. He had so many qualified hot leads coming into his business. His challenge was getting out and quoting these new customers and then invoicing them and then actually servicing the customers. So his challenge was on process and workflow and optimizing that piece of the business, while other members had fantastic systems and operations dialed in, and they wanted to know what he was doing on the lead generation side. So you had 2 people with inverse problems who were able to help each other out in a beautiful way. And we've since seen those kinds of inverse challenges again and again, and it's fascinating.
Definitely, like that's very important. Now, you also spoke about the money side. So generally, a mastermind to join wouldn't be free. I personally haven't seen that type of thing. You can't
Because they
join.
don't last when they're free. That's why.
Exactly. So now, for example, if someone from the side of starting a mastermind, first of all, do you think someone who is starting a business should actually have a mastermind from the beginning of their business, for example, or do you think that needs some kind of a experience in the trenches, I would say, right? And what are, let's say, speaking of the fees for that, do you think that is the not appropriate, but I would say the range for that?
Yeah. So there's two pieces to your question there. One is sort of at what stage should somebody be joining or looking for a mastermind, right? And the second is like what is considered a reasonable investment for a mastermind group. So to your first question, you can either create or join a mastermind group as early on as you like or at any point in life or business, so long as you're finding the group that caters to your stage in business and who you are and what you do, right? We had folks who were reaching out to us about our mastermind group, which is for established existing businesses that are scaling, post revenue with team and so on. And we were hearing from some folks that weren't there yet. They were still early stage or pre-stage or just getting their idea together. And so those kinds of members wouldn't be a good fit for our mastermind groups of established business owners. So we very consciously would disqualify those folks. And at some point we realized maybe we should have a founders group for earlier stage businesses. And so we started spinning up our founders group, right? And so now we have a home for earlier stage businesses. It's a smaller financial commitment. It's a smaller time commitment. And it is a very different style group. When you're earlier stage or just starting out, you have a lot more how-to questions like, how do I validate my product idea? How do I incorporate? How do I set up a credit card processing? You have a lot more of those how-to questions and you need mentorship and coaching. Once you actually are seeing success and you're selling your product and you're scaling your company, that's where you start to have a lot more expertise and can share more in a peer advisory group your successes and your challenges and your resources, right? So to your question of when can one join? Well, anytime, as long as you're joining the right group, that's going to be a fit for where you're at in your business. And that also ties into sort of where financial investment should be. There's a story I love. There was a financial advisor, did sort of wealth management. And he and I masterminded together, and he had the idea of putting together a cruise, sort of a client appreciation event to meet up with his clients. And they would go out, and he was thinking, what kind of speakers should I get to provide guest lecture experience for his clients? And it ended up that his clients weren't really looking for expert speakers. They were looking to hang out with people like themselves. And so they all went on this cruise, had a fun time. He really enjoyed getting to hang out with his clients and for them to connect. But when he got feedback afterwards, what he found out from his clients was they loved it, but they wanted to hang out with more people like them. So some of them were saying, look, it's great that, people need a minimum, I think it was $1 million net worth to be one of your clients, but I want to hang out with the folks who are like $10 million net worth and up because we share similar challenges. And so he took that feedback, and the following year, he did a separate event just for folks at that higher level. And they loved it. They got to hang out with more people like themselves at that higher level. And then he got the feedback again from some folks saying, we had a really fun time, but we'd like to hang out with more people like us at the $50 million level and up. And so he realized, okay, there's a different level, of his clients. And what it came down to thematically and sort of the takeaway from the story is people want to hang out with those who are like them facing, similar challenges and want to self-qualify in. So when you think back to that country club-like model, how you set the pricing should be a gate for some businesses won't be able to afford the group, and that'll help to self-disqualify them. If they don't see value in a certain price point, they're not going to join, and that's okay because they wouldn't have been a good fit for the group anyways. So price accordingly so that the dollar amount means something, but it's also still within budget for the company. That way you get people to actually show up. There's some, what we say, skin in the game, and they want to participate, and they are truly making an investment in themselves and their business.
Definitely. So what do you think you see some of the mistakes that happened when starting or running masterminds?
Yeah, I've seen some mastermind groups fail because they do a poor job qualifying prospective members. In some businesses, I hate to say it, but the way they qualify prospective customers is if their credit card swipes and it clears, or if they can fog a mirror, right? And if that's your gate to who you're willing to get into your group, it's not going to be as successful as you might hope because you're not vetting members to make sure they're going to be a good fit for the group. So make sure you have a proper vetting process in place for your membership. Second of all, you want to make sure you have really expert facilitation. This isn't just a bunch of folks in a room on their own hoping to figure it out. My role is not just in facilitating, but in teaching how to facilitate these groups properly. And there's a structure to that. We have an agenda, we keep the time, we guide the conversations, we help connect members in ways that they're not seeing. So when I know one member has a personal experience or a wealth of knowledge in a certain area, and I see the applicability to somebody else, I can help to make that connection or connect those dots for the members, even when they don't see that connection themselves. So be there to help facilitate those connections, run a group, run proper hot seats for each of the members, and help to hold everyone accountable. The last thing you want is getting to the end of the day and a member not having had a chance to have their hot seat because you weren't managing the time correctly, right? And on a more micro level, the last thing you want is for someone to be in the middle of their hot seat and be told your time's up, and them feeling like they're only mid-arc in where they were going. So managing not just the day at the macro level, but each hot seat at the micro level is really important, making sure members are getting their value. One thing I've seen go wrong in facilitation in other groups in the past is one member will see an opportunity for somebody else, and they'll want to go down that rabbit hole. They'll want to chase that challenge and solve a problem when that's not the problem the member is looking to solve. So being mindful of what it is that someone's looking for and making sure they get that, even if other people are trying to solve problems that aren't there or aren't what's important or most obvious for that member. So facilitation is really, really important as well, and doing that in the right way.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned qualification, and that's very important. Like, this is basically the first step and one of the most important steps. You don't want people to join in because they have the money to pay your 10K a month mastermind, for example, right? So how do you say, is there some kind of a framework that you work with, or some sort of questions, let's say, because I have seen that, for example, there are usually some kind of maybe either intro calls, or sometimes maybe like some kind of a form you have to fill in order to qualify for the masterminds. So do you think having this type of form that are specific questions that will definitely give the answer to you that these people are aligned with what my goal is for the mastermind?
Yeah, I'll share with you sort of the best practices that I've found. And we've evolved this process, over the years. What we find works really well, and how I run things at the Bay Area Mastermind, is people who are interested in joining us, they complete an application. It's a multi-step application with some good quantitative things like multiple choice, as well as some smaller things, more open text, free form, right? And as they go through that application, the end of that is, if they're a good fit, is to schedule a call where we go over the application together, right? I'm looking to qualify folks into what we're looking for in our groups. I'm looking for signals of them being a good lifelong learner, focusing on self-improvement, both for their business and themselves personally, that they have goals, that they're facing some challenges, and so on, right? And so on that application review call, they already know the answers to how much the group costs and when we meet and what the structure is like. All their questions are answered. So now it's just my job is to have the conversation and go through and make sure they're a good fit to do what is called our test drive. So our test drive is a one-day opportunity where they pay to join us for the day one time. And they get to participate fully like any member would in the group for the day. And after they've done that one time, we're looking for a two-way fit. We want the group to feel they would give and get value from the group. And we want that prospective member to feel like they would give and get value from the group. And if there's alignment there, then we invite them to join. And so that process, for those of you looking to create your own mastermind groups or curious how our process works, is really great. Each step of the way, you're actively disqualifying or actively qualifying folks into or out of the group. And that way there's no surprises in terms of who's showing up. You wouldn't want to invest, in a year's worth of membership to an organization you've never had a chance to try out. And on the flip side, the group doesn't want to be surprised with a new member who's not a good fit for the group long term. And this really allows us to assure that two-way fit, and that someone really sees value in what the group has to offer, and that the group sees value in what that member has to offer.
Yeah, it's great that you offer this type of this test drive. It's that to see the alignment there. But now, speaking of how many members do you think is the You think there is some kind of a perfect number for how many members are in the group itself, like five? I heard a lot of talk that five is great. More than that could be like more heads into the same room. So what do you think about that?
So the number of people directly correlates to how much time you have for the meeting. So for the destination groups we were talking about earlier, where you have 2 or more days together, those I've seen can go up to 20 to 25 because you have 2 full days of time together, right? On the other end, those sort of accountability or coffee groups we were talking about, if you're only meeting for 30 to 90 minutes, you can't have more than 5 members because you won't have time to talk about each member's business in depth. So for us at our sweet spot of meeting for a full day to work on the business, 10 people at a meeting is about the most you can have in one room at one time. So we generally have a group maxed out at about 12 members. That allows, just from travel and whatnot, for there to be, 8 to 10 in the room at any given time. Below 4 is a little small for an in-person full-day meeting, simply because you can certainly spend the time on each person's business, but you're not getting the benefit of that true larger group, diverse range of inputs from other experts, and you don't have as many areas of genius in the room with that size. So for sort of the ideal format of the once a month full day, I would say you want between 6 and 10 people in the room at a meeting.
That's definitely awesome because, like you mentioned, I would feel it too. I have never been to Mastermind, but I would feel it like four. It would be really they will have the time to talk about everything, maybe, but it's not the point where there is more or enough, let's say, ideas that are being cooked, I guess. So.
Right.
Yeah. So what is the, let's say, maybe with you working with people, what is the best advice or worst advice that you have been told?
So there's this idea around this whole movement around hustle, and this came up. It feels like it became really prevalent maybe 10-ish years ago about while you're sleeping, your competition is outgrowing you, right? And every moment of the day, your competition is stealing away your customers. And this is a very fear-based scarcity mindset, which I find honestly quite toxic, right? So it's okay to have a business be the right size for you. Not everyone needs to create a decacorn company with a $10 billion valuation. Is that what you really want? For some people, it is, and go for it. But you may not need the size or scale business that you think. So figure out what is the right business that can serve your mission, vision, and purpose and be the right size for you and the lifestyle that you're looking for. And you might be surprised to find the sweet spot is actually smaller than you think. There was a very successful business owner. One of my friends had a business when we first met with hundreds of employees, had his own buildings filled with people on the phones all day and building the business. And it was quite a large operation. That's also a lot of overhead. So the actual profitability of the business and the stress level and the risk and the liability and everything associated with that was very different than his next business, which was a 5-person business. It had a higher profit margin in that size business, and he was able to sleep much more easily at night. So I'm not saying one is better or worse, but just be mindful, bigger isn't always better. You want to scale to the right size for you. And so if you find people are constantly asking you, growth-wise, what's next, be mindful of where you really want to be and not just focused on growth for the sake of growth.
So that's very important to be mindful because you do want to reach a point where you are authentically being there, presenting yourself on the brand, because it's not just about the sales of whatever it is that you sell in general. It's about the relationships that you build, I believe, right? This is what should be authenticity to other people, because eventually, as we said, people sell to other people, and people don't really want to be people don't want to be sold, they want to buy. So I guess so that's the case. So do you think that there are some kind of tools, resources, or books, like at the beginning we talked about Napoleon Hill and this book? There is a book known to everyone, Think and Go Rich, and also there is a book that nobody not many people talk about, which is The Law of Success, I think it's named.
Yes. Yep.
So what,
Those are his two best known books: is Law of Success and Think and Grow Rich,
yeah, so
among many others.
yeah, what do you think some of the tools, resources, or books that you would say?
Yeah, so those two for sure are foundational reading for our mastermind members. I actually have a compilation of our mastermind master reads, we call it, of the half a dozen or so books that our members have either read or our newer members read very quickly after joining, because they're foundational to so much of what we talk about. So just sharing two more of those for you. One folks don't talk about as much anymore, but is so impactful and helpful, is the E-Myth Revisited. This is Michael Gerber's, his signature book, his calling card book, as it were, that tells a fantastic story of someone who goes on the entrepreneurial journey. The E in the E-Myth is for entrepreneurial myth. And she is what is called the technician, right? She was working for somebody else. In her case, Sally was making pies, and realized she loved this, and so went off and created her own business to make more pies. And then, wouldn't you know it, when you have a business doing the thing you love to do, there's a lot more to running the business than just doing the thing you love to do. And so, like many technicians who go on this journey, she found herself not making pies, but instead dealing with hiring and vendors and management and payroll and bookkeeping and all the things involved in running a business so you can make pies, instead of doing the thing that she loved. So the book is all around sort of that journey that so many entrepreneurs go through. A second one that's fantastic for those more on the either manufacturing or operations, or really working with any kind of funnels in your business. And trust me, you have more funnels than you think you do in your business. The Goal by Elliot Goldratt is a phenomenal read. It's all around the theory of constraints, or a TOC. And that's something that we apply to funnel optimization all the time. I teach on this stuff. I love this stuff. You have funnels in your business that can be optimized. And the real short version of it is, you can look at what is the worst performing part of whatever your funnel is and focus on that and fix that until something else is then the worst performing part. And you start bringing all those up. And the goal, much like the E-Myth, is written as a parable. So you're following along in a journey in a story and learning with that story more technical concepts. So it's a very enjoyable but also poignant read that you can take measurable action in your business after reading.
Definitely. So, do you think there is something that I missed asking you about, or some kind of a takeaway that you can add here for people thinking, or they're joining or creating Mastermind?
Yeah. So bigger picture, broader, I would always encourage everyone to take the step back and ask yourself, why it is that you're in business, or why you're thinking about getting into business, right? I think there's a lot of myths around entrepreneurship. Many of us business owners, our friends and other folks see us, and they see that duck floating effortlessly across the water with no idea about the feet underneath working and paddling and all the effort and things that go on to keep that smooth looking duck going across. So from the outside, having a business might look wonderful and easy, but there's a lot of challenges that come with it. So be mindful of what it is you're looking for in running your business. And if you can define that success, then you can know if you're on track towards it, and you can also know when you've gotten there, right? And in terms of your question on advice for those looking to start or join a mastermind group, be mindful of looking for the right fit, and that's going to be a two-way fit. So make sure your group that you're looking to join has a way to test drive, is the parlance we use, but a way to check out a group and see if it's the right fit for you. I've certainly visited other kinds of groups and realized it's not a fit, and that's really important to know before you write a substantial check to join a group that might be the wrong group for you. And the only way to know is to try something out. And if you're looking to start your own group, you can be mindful of modeling success. There's already established groups that do a really good job. There's a lot you can learn from that kind of environment where you can step right in, versus putting in all the work it takes to organize and find members and facilitate and get venues and all the rest of the things that come along with actually running and facilitating successful groups.
Definitely. So, Jeremy, great information you've brought us here. It's I do believe that masterminds is something that will take anyone, entrepreneur in their business, or anyone that are looking to go to the next level, is something that should have at least once in their life, I guess. Because you will have sometimes one idea can change everything, right? So that's very important. So Jeremy, where can people learn more about you so they can get in touch with you and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so you can find us over at bayareamastermind.com. That's BAYAREA, mastermind.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn as well. I write quite a lot around entrepreneurship, and I follow the stories and share the journeys of successful founders who've made it to the other end of that rainbow and found true entrepreneurial freedom. So you can find that writing on my site as well. And like I mentioned, we have our Mastermind Master Reads. That's available for folks as well at masterreads.bayareamastermind.com. If you want to get that list of books we were starting to talk about earlier.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Very insightful, and you are very passionate about the subject, apparently, about Mastermind, and you love it. Thank you very much for joining me for this episode.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful. Great.